Oh, hi, I'm Keith. Today we're taking a look at Lord of the Flies Chapter 2. So, without further ado, let's read this thing. So in this series, we're taking a look at Lord of the Flies by William Golding. Today we're going to take a look at Chapter 2, Fire on the Mountain. Golding likes to title all of his chapters over some kind of plot event or symbol from the book. So whatever this fire is on the mountain, that's something that we're going to be wanting to pay attention to as we kind of dive in here. A quick side note about sketchnotes. Sketchnotes are not about drawing great. Sketchnotes are not about showing off your ability as an artist. They're about getting your hand moving. And there's a lot of research that says if your hand is moving with this information, you're going to remember it better. So I encourage you to, maybe as we go through this, take these sketch notes alongside with me. I've done them beforehand for sake of time, and we'll just kind of pop them up on the screen as we're talking about each chapter. So the chapter opens with our three guys, Simon, Ralph, and Jack, coming down the mountain and telling the rest of the guys kind of what they saw, including that little piglet that Jack failed at killing. But Jack promises that he's going to get this pig. Next time, he says. Jack slammed his knife into a trunk and looked around challengingly. Jack is very determined to kind of prove his bravery or whatever it is he's trying to prove to the rest of the group. Well, Ralph takes over the meeting here. And in fact, Ralph almost immediately starts trying to create a little bit of structure. And he does so by creating a rule. And the rule is this: whoever holds the conch, everyone else in the group has to listen to. If you want to speak, I will hand you the conch. Everyone else is quiet, and only Ralph, as chief, can interrupt whoever is speaking with the conch. Jack surprisingly loves this. Jack jumps up, and Jack says, "We'll have rules! Lots of them! Then when anyone breaks them," seems like Jack is more interested in executing the consequences of the rules, of doling out some punishments, than he is in the rules themselves. Ralph goes on and kind of starts talking about the island, what they saw, and how it's a good island. They've got two main priorities here. Ralph says, "This is our island. It's a good island. Until the grown-ups come to fetch us, we'll have fun." So priorities, number one, we're going to get rescued. Two, until we get rescued, until the grown-ups show up, we are going to have a good time. The boys, as they hear about this island, start name-dropping some references. The boys say, "Treasure Island, this is like Treasure Island, right? The Robert Louis Stevenson book. Swallows and Amazons," they say. And then one that I want to spend some time with, Coral Island by R.M. Ballantyne. In fact, it seems like Golding really has based his entire Lord of the Flies on Coral Island. It's kind of a satire of these type of adventure, stranded on a desert island, British people figuring things out on this island, which was a huge genre at the time. But Coral Island is one where we're going to see a lot of parallels. So one of the parallels is, in Coral Island, we have three main characters. Those main characters are named Ralph, Jack, and Peterkin. And the Coral Island Jack is kind of the leader of the group. Why? Simply because he's the oldest one. You've maybe noticing that in Lord of the Flies, we have a Jack and we have a Ralph. We don't have a Peterkin, but we've got a Piggy. And these are kind of the main trio of Lord of the Flies. Very similar, right? Big difference? Jack is not the leader, even though he is head boy, he is chapter chorister. Ralph is the leader in Lord of the Flies because he was elected so, partially because of the conch, as we learned in chapter 1. In the Coral Island, the boys run into some indigenous peoples of the island, some savages that they have to deal with and overcome. In Lord of the Flies, there are no indigenous people, there are no natives here, there are no savages that the British boys are going to have to overcome. Yet that theme, civilization versus savagery, is very much in Lord of the Flies too. So while the difference of there being an outsider kind of savagery, In Lord of the Flies, it's almost kind of more internal. The boys have to deal with their own inner sense of savagery. Both set on a deserted island. Both we have these trios of main characters. Both of these stories deal with civilization versus savagery. Golding says part of the reason he wrote Lord of the Flies was he wanted to write a book like Coral Island, but with the kids actually acting the way that kids would act in that situation. Golding was a school teacher, and he knew that kids aren't always angelic little beings all of the time. Well, they follow the rule, and this little kid wants to speak. And this little kid starts talking about one of our major symbols of the book. This little kid asks Ralph, what is he going to do about the beastie, which they'll later reference as the beast, and what this little kid calls for now the snake thing. Ralph very clearly says, like, there can't be a creature like you're talking about, kid, on this island. That makes no sense. Island this size couldn't sustain something big, some kind of carnivorous creature that way. There's not a beast, man. You were dreaming. You imagined this snake thing that you think that you saw. There still seems to be a little bit of uncertainty by the group on the snake thing until Ralph kind of asserts his authority. He can't just say there isn't a beast. That's not doing anything good for the kids. He says something different. He says, now we come to the most important part. I was thinking while we were climbing the mountain and on the beach just now. This is what I thought. We want to have fun and we want to be rescued. We want to be rescued, and of course, we shall be rescued. The crowd is in thrall of Ralph right now. He's saying the stuff that they want to hear. He goes on to say some kind of questionable things, and that's the point, is that this is a bit illogical, but it is what the group wants to hear, and so they love it. Ralph starts talking about his dad. My father's in the Navy. He said there aren't any unknown islands left. He says the Queen has a big room full of maps and all the islands in the world are drawn there. So the Queen's got a picture of this island. And sooner or later, a ship will put in here. It might even be Daddy's ship. So you see, sooner or later, we shall be rescued, right? My daddy is going to come save us, guys. Like, he's got this. Chill. We're going to be rescued. This speech earns him spontaneous applause from the entire group. Even Piggy, who is kind of standing off a little bit skeptical here. Even Piggy is just open-mouthed, staring at Ralph in admiration. And I love this line here. So everybody is breaking out in applause. And the other way, there's Jack, who was smirking and showing that he too knew how to clap. So Jack applauds, but his applause obviously is not as authentic. It's performative because he doesn't want to look bad in front of the group. He knows that this is not the time, right, for action. This is the time to show visible support of Ralph. Well, they decide, hey, Ralph says another thing. We can help him find us. We can make a fire with smoke, a signal fire, to help rescue ships nearby maybe see us. So they get to the top, and there's this great moment with Ralph and Jack, where they find this big log. They find this trunk, and it's just so heavy. At the return, Ralph found himself alone on a limb with Jack, and they grinned at each other, sharing this burden. Once more amid the breeze, the shouting, the slanting sunlight on the high mountain was shed that glamour, that strange invisible light of friendship, adventure, and content. Almost too heavy. Jack grinned back. Not for the two of us. So there's this great friendship bromance moment where Ralph and Jack together are able to get this limb onto the fire. Well, they create this huge pile of debris and then realize they have no way to light it. Hey, you got a match? Piggy shows up and Jack just gets an idea, grabs Piggy's glasses off of his face and uses Piggy's glasses to catch the sunlight to start the fire. Piggy starts kind of taking guys to task, like, what kind of fire is this? There's no way you guys are going to be able to sustain this. This is barely giving off any smoke. You guys are acting like a bunch of kids. Jack doesn't want to listen to him. Starts to say, shut up, Piggy. And Piggy's like, I got the conch. And Jack's like, the conch doesn't count up here. Ralph's like, yeah, it counts. I do love this line that goes into colonialism we talked with chapter 1. Jack says, I agree with Ralph. We gotta have rules and obey them. After all, we're not savages. We're English. And the English are the best at everything. And Jack says, I'll have my guys be responsible for keeping the fire going. Well, the fire gets out of control. The fire just rages out of control and becomes very, very destructive. And trees on one side of the mountain start to explode. Piggy becomes indignant. Piggy's very upset with these guys. Trunk explodes, and the creepers, the vines, come raining down. A lot of littl'uns are like, look at the snakes, right? And then, as this fire is raging, Piggy says, hey, by the way, what about the kid that mentioned the beastie? What about the kid with the mark on his face? Where is he now? They're looking around, they don't see him. They all kind of look towards the fire that's raging on the mountain. Ralph mutters in reply, as if in shame, Golding writes, perhaps he went back to and then beneath them, on the unfriendly side of the mountain, the drum roll continued. So we may have our first casualty here. They wanted to start a signal fire, but then it rages out of control, and they just kind of did not think this through. That's it. Okay, don't miss anything. Come back and check out Chapter 3 with us. We'll do some more sketch notes. We'll get our characterization and our illusions and our symbols and all of our themes going. If you have questions or you have some comments, you disagree with interpretation, or you want to know more about something, hey, drop a comment and I'll respond down there below. So, and of course, please don't forget to like and subscribe, as they say. See you next time. Read this thing.